Yeah, so we've been praying for and looking for some time for a church plan, and our model of church planting is generally it involves a couple who feel called to reach a community. So there's two things to the people we look to partner with in church planting.
Yeah,
one is a purpose and a calling. So to start with calling, we're looking for people who are called to a demographic,
yep,
to a community.
Yeah, right.
So, like we're called to reach young people. We're called to reach. We're looking for people who are called.
Yeah.
And that's what I look for in my context of my broader ministry globally. Is these people who are called to a demographic, which I think is a biblical and church history model. Being called to, Paul was called to the Gentiles, and others were called to particular demographics. Some were called to reach the Jews. And so what we're looking for are people who are called, and then we're looking at people who have a clear purpose, and that is grounded in their calling. So the purpose is, what do you want to happen when you engage with that demographic? So what do you want to happen? What your calling is to a demographic. Your purpose is, what do you want to happen for them? What do you want to see happen in them? So we haven't been able to find that in Corio. Now, the other uniqueness, in some ways, I guess you call it uniqueness about CVaT, is that we want to invest, and we seem to be called to, and I don't know, it's not about us going out and making church plans. It's actually, we believe church planters are the sort that we want, the pioneering innovators, self-identified. And they self-identify because they already have a calling and a purpose. And when you've got a calling and purpose, you don't wait to find somebody who says, we'll get behind it. They go and do it because it's what they're called to do. So what we're looking for generally is a couple or a very small group of people who are pioneers. So, and it's not like I'm saying that a congregational plan is wrong or anything. It's just that's who we're called to.
Yeah.
And those people will evangelize a church into existence. That's what we want to see.
Yeah. So
they don't come with a ready-made congregation.
Yeah.
They come with a calling and a purpose for the people that they're called to. And they're usually a couple who start, and then others join with them. Then, as the church initially grows, there are Christians who join them, but the Christians are joining them not because they want a church for themselves. They join them because they want to be part of something that's reaching the unreached. So, put it another way, a lot of church planters and a lot of churches start with an ecclesiology, like this is how we do church, and this is what we want to create, this type of church. So they start with ecclesiology, and then they develop their missiology out of their ecclesiology. I know these big words, but their mission strategy is to create this sort of church community, right? This expression of church. So they start with ecclesiology, then they develop a missiology around that, and then they have their Christology, which is fitted into that. So the way we're going to introduce people to Christ is by creating this form of church, because it works elsewhere. So, but the pioneer church planters, they start with a Christology. They say, I believe that my relationship with Jesus Christ needs to be shared. And so they start with what? So they ask the question, because I have a relationship with Jesus and he's number one in my life, what does he want me to do? So they start with a Christology and they look at, what is Jesus' instruction to me, and what's Jesus' instruction to whoever else joins us. So they start with a Christology. Then they build their missiology out of that Christology. So they go out and they engage with who they're called to introduce them to Jesus. So they started with a Christology. Jesus says, well, I want you to be fruitful. I want to be fruitful in two ways. I want you to be fruitful, I want you to produce new Christians, but I also want you to be fruitful in how you express me in the community. So, and then out of that Christology, a missiology, which is targeted, which is focused on the people you're called to and introducing them to Jesus, then comes your ecclesiology. So the people who you're reaching, because you're evangelizing a church into existence, they determine how you do church. They actually, it becomes uniquely special for them in their cultural context. And that's what Paul was talking about when he gave that little speech, little homily on mission really is to go and create churches that are appropriate for the people that you're trying to reach, not a prescribed model. So when we are hoping that we can utilize resources that we've got, let's say like the facility we've got down in Corio, we're praying that God will lead us to the people who already called to that. So we hadn't been able to find that in Corio. And one of the things I think we found with Bethel was that they had a different focus than us. And we said, well, all these young families, can you be young family? Well, no, it's not really us. Well, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just it was misalignment. And I think it was wise that we didn't move ahead with that partnership because there was misalignment with what we believe God had called us to do. So Conrad comes on our team. He now has taken a lion's share of responsibility of looking after our church plans and trying to find others. Yeah. And so I said, we've got to do something correct. So Conrad turns up, finds you, I think, at the right moment. Yeah. And so what we're looking to do is to actually validate you in your calling and support you in your calling. Yeah. And it might mean funding. We've got a funding agency that says we want you to do more of what you do. We love the pioneering church plans. Yeah. If it's the right model, we'll get on board with you. Yeah. So there could be some funding, but we believe that God seems to be bringing us together and at a right moment for both of us, I think. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to respond to the calling and the purpose. Sort of, I don't know if you know, but came out here called to serve the poor because it's a very poor area, and started Little Miracles home group, and in a community centre, and then in April, I think it was 2019, and then bought this house in July. And then joined Bethel after that. And my role at Bethel is to just help Paul and make sure all the systems work and just support him and learn. So I've learned more about, preaching and leading services and having that weight of responsibility and dealing with all the congregational stuff that goes on. But the primary driver for everything is the outreach. And so we've pioneered what's called pop-up church. Right. Did you have a look at that? Did you see that on our website?
Yeah, I have seen it, and I've seen a couple of the recordings that you've made.
Yeah. Well, they're not very high quality, but they give you a feel for what's going on, and that's just blossoming, David. The council's given us an ongoing permit to do that, and leaders are really stepping up to take responsibility for loving and nurturing the people there, which is a really God thing. It's astonishing, and they're the poor, if you like, of our area. That's where they congregate. The older guys, not the youngsters, but youngsters come through the area. We also pioneered a lot of events for children. So kids club. The most popular one's a family pizza night, which we've got one this Friday. Got a wood-fired oven. You might have seen some videos about that. Where we've got a gate that opens onto the park, and the kids can come in with their bikes and families, and we'll make pizzas. So we're trying to teach them life skills and teach them the gospel. So we'll do songs, and some of them are really receptive. So that's been going on for a while. And there's tree planting. We're a registered nature group. And that means we're rubbing shoulders with kids and families all around the area. And there's one scheduled for April. That'll be our 5th park. We do a gospel presentation, games, barbecue at the same time as the tree planting. So that's the type of thing that is underlining what you're saying, that we've just said, look, we're not waiting for someone to show us the way. We're pioneering the way, and the vision is to continue that, but up it, and so double our effectiveness in reaching people with the gospel in 3214, which is our postcode, this year, if we can, and continue to grow that effectiveness by employing people. I'd love to employ 2 people this year. So that sort of gives you a bit of a picture of where I'm at here.
And do you see I think you've already got a sense of community. You see a faith community developing out of that?
Yeah, this is the interesting part. For me, that's not a primary objective. It is developing out in the Labuan Square with the pop-up church. The local guys are getting very committed, and there are people perhaps less evangelistically orientated and more pastorally orientated joining the team, who are wanting to love on those people more. And so that you would say that that's ready to be, and actually we are looking at appointing someone to run a Bible study on the off weeks and draw those who are coming to Christ together and to train them up. We've got someone sort of in mind, or 2 people. I would be part of that, but perhaps not the main person, because I believe my skill set is to see opportunities for evangelism that are really different, and to do them. And that's, yeah, so I think that's partly why I wanted to have this conversation, because God may draw me into being more of a pastor, but at the moment, my main skill is to create things that didn't exist, not to necessarily bring the phase 2 might be the faith community part, which is up until today not really my cup of tea. Like I love being part of it, and I love serving, but I don't know if I have the right capacity to actually be the governor of the whole group, like the senior pastor. It's very daunting, and it's like the hardest job in the world. But so yeah, I just wanted to level with you on that. Yeah, but who knows what's going to happen down track? Like I'm passionate about pioneering new events. I've got 2 shovel-ready projects right now, that maybe 3, not quite 3, but nearly 3, that are new and evangelistic for Geelong and for this area. Yeah, so that's where I see my thrust of what I do, and other people can come along and build those things.
I think you need to see faith community that people can belong to and grow in their faith in as part of the equation. But we've got 2 expressions of what you're talking about, which are now churches in the sense of how you describe a church. And they identify as we're a group of believers coming together. Majority of those people have come to faith through what the activities of these 2 groups I'm talking about and thinking about. And they're nurtured in that, and then they've got something else it's got a community to invite people to that's unique. It's not churchy, it's faith-based, it's a faith community. I think there's an essential element to growing something that's got the capacity to self-replicate and to expand your capacity to reach others, and actually activate the people who have become believers in their faith. So 2 examples of that. One is I think a church plant, if you want to call it, called Soul Community. Now that's come out of a ministry that we fostered in CVAT called 1188 Advanced. And the girl who leads that, Lauren Stebbins, wanted to reach kids in schools, and so she was a semi-professional dancer, and so she started a dance ministry.
Wow.
You would go into schools, into public schools,
Yeah.
and do dance programs and get the marginalised kids in the school to come and join a dance group,
Wow.
teach them dancing, and actually at the same time talk to them about body image and how precious they were. And 1188 is the trust in God than a person. So I think it might be Psalm 1188. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so she was doing that ministry, and then she would have a camp, and we started supporting her, and she'd take these kids she'd model these kids on camps and stuff, and then they started becoming believers, and then she tried to integrate them in churches, and that didn't work because they didn't know what to do with them. So this little group on Wednesday night started to form, and they called it Soul Sesh, and these kids who became believers was coming to that, and that was their church basically. And eventually we said, well, it's a church plant, so now they're called Soul Community. And over the time that we've been supporting her and helping her, I think it's over now probably 4 or 5 years, she's had about 120 kids come to faith, and so they got this community of new believers, and that's part of who they are. The other one is, and they keep doing all this other stuff. They're doing body image stuff, they're doing seminars, now they're doing stuff they're partnering with CYC camps, and all the schools that come to CYC camps, they're doing sessions for them as well.
Wow.
So they're doing all this outreach work, but they needed that place where these people could belong, because they couldn't belong in the traditional church. So I think it's very important to have a belonging element to it.
Well, I love what you're saying, and the Lord's been sort of putting on my heart a vision that I'm committed to trying very soon, which is to rent the building. There's a bus stop right out the front. And every day at 3 o'clock, there's about 50 people standing out the front.
Right.
And we're thinking of creating an after-school program and a drop-in for parents. And the thing is, mate, I want to bring in the visionaries in Geelong who aren't doing anything at the moment, because there's a lot of, I believe, frustrated people, or perhaps not the best word to use, but visionaries who want somewhere to try stuff, avant-garde ideas. So why not have a table tennis table or basketball hoop and like drinks and some games, and that would be a hub. That my heart is that would be a hub for visionaries and non-Christians to somehow rub shoulders, and I'd like to experiment with that. But I hear what you're saying, and I'm not averse to it. I tend to agree. I think that's what the Lord's putting on my heart, that to have a mission hub that in itself is a faith community, I suppose.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be a traditional church, but it needs to be a place where the things that happen in an early church happen. And for all these new believers, they need to belong somewhere, and you see that in the early church, and it's necessary, I think, particularly when you're a pioneering, what I call a pioneering planter, evangelist, because these people will not fit into something that's not theirs. And so the other one we've got is Surf Church down at Phillip Island.
Okay.
And it was particularly, Phillip Island is a surf mecca. And I, as a kid, used to go down there all the time to surf, because you got an island, and so when you got an offshore on one beach, you got an onshore on the other, because you've got this island, got all these beaches, beach breaks and reef breaks and point break all in one place. So all these people surfers love. So there's a need to reach the surfers. They're probably the most distant from the church. So we had somebody who was interested in reaching them, so we got Surf Church going. Now they were meeting on a Friday night, when they started doing their formal gatherings, because they went surfing on the weekend, and I'm not going to go and meet on a Sunday when we surf. And so they've been going now 4 years, and they've attracted all these surfers, and some of them got married, now they've got kids, so now they've got a problem because they've got families and they don't work on Friday, so now they are meeting on a Sunday, on a Sunday morning, but only every second week.
Yeah.
As they say, we need the other weekends to go surfing. That's what we do. We surf. So we want to get together though, and people are asking for that. And they become believers, and they say, "Oh, shouldn't we get together and do Christian stuff?" We want to learn, and so that's what they do. It's very bare feet, sandy legs, play guitars, dreadlock sort of stuff. And I was just at there 2 weeks ago. I was at their 4-year celebration.
Oh wow!
And it was outside, and it started to rain, and they had hay bales everywhere, and it was hilarious, and it is quite unique. And but they in the end, to grow, had to have something that people could belong to, and it was an expression of the core elements of what a faith community is. So I highly encourage, if we're going to join with you on this and get behind you, there needs to be that element for us in it. And I think it gives you somewhere for people to belong beyond them identifying with you, having an experience, meeting Jesus. How can they be together with other believers and start to grow together?
So not just avant-garde outreach experiments all around the place.
Well, that is essential. It's essential for 1188. It's essential for Surf Church. They do a whole lot of things. But I guess the foundation for all of that is now this faith community, and I think that's, to me, that's what we would like to see developed.
Well, okay, and it's, I think what you're saying is perhaps a natural process that's happening at Pop-Up Church right now. Like we had a real shift last time we did it in early February. They were really listening. So often there's heckling because it's a pretty rough crowd, and it's out in a square. But not last time. You could have heard a pin drop, and the number of followers is growing, and they're deep. That you can see that the Lord's working in things like just that, the respect and the listen sort of behaviour. So maybe that's a natural thing that's flowing already. You'd expect that. The other thing that just amazes me about Conrad's meeting with me was that I decided to stay here in 3214. I think that's where I'm called to be, to serve the community. And that building is perfect, for growing ministry. Like it's right there at the bus stop. It's on a fairly busy road. And I'm just thinking, if it's a funny thing to say, but you think, why CCCVaT? If there was, and if the answer for me is not just because of the building, but it's also, there's no other group I'd like to work with. Like I know you, I know Paul Gould. I've seen your mettle over the years. I know your daughter, your son-in-law, and it's just quite a remarkable thing for me to look at what's happening and go, wow, because that building is not really being used during the week very much.
No. The other thing, Angus, about that building is it's right in the centre of a lot of family activity, isn't it? Right next door to the new childcare centre and the school, and it's just, we need the light in the darkness, and it doesn't need to be on a Sunday. Angus, I think your role, your calling in all of this is to keep coming up with all these ideas and to see them happen. And one of the elements that you would look after is the faith community element. But I would think you hand that to somebody else and say, look after faith community. I'm going to do this. Now we're actually going to get a food bank in here. Now another one church we just planted.
Yep.
Is in Wyndham, and in it's called Win Life. It's been going this year, and they started off late last year. And what they started off doing was running the food bank.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to meet all these people through the food bank and mobilised all the believers to do this stuff. And now they've got all these new believers that come out of this ministry of food bank, which the council are supporting. So it's another thing, and they're using the facility to do those sort of things. So we've got all kinds of examples of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see your role as being a pastor of the church. I see your role as being the overseer of this ministry, which is a comprehensive whole. And in the sense that is a church. So the faith community, the place where people are nurtured and grown in their faith, could be somebody else.
Yeah,
looks after that.
And you may find that there are different ones too, because the pop-up church.
Yep, that's it. That's right.
He's always out there.
That's right. Yep.
Because we meet outside, and if we were inside, they wouldn't come.
Oh, absolutely. And so Angus, the thing is that I think the most in the context that you'll find yourself in Corio Norlane. I just remember what that verse was. It's Psalm 118:8. That's the way I was going.
I looked it up. I looked it up while you're talking.
Yeah, Psalm 118. I'm going the wrong way. I'm going, that's not right. Anyway, I think the model that you need to have is multiple congregation.
Yeah. So
you've got all these little faith communities, and that's again customizing the church to the people you're reaching.
Hallelujah.